Awesome. And the recording is in progress. Thank you very much, Zoom. Well, fantastic, Bruce. You have any exciting plans after this webinar for the rest of the day?
Oh man, I tell you, we've got a lot going on right now. We've got the HR Southwest conference is coming up. I got Worldwide ERC coming up. It's interesting how everything is kind of unfolded where, now you have all these speaking events and people, meeting together all at once. So super
Yes.
excited about that. How about you?
Yes, there's certainly a lot going on. Well, I mean, after this, honestly, I'm going to be heads down in my spreadsheets of sourcing and all kinds of stuff. But I do have a conference coming up in Florida that I'm going to in a couple of weeks, which is certainly exciting, and definitely looking forward to some of the presentations there. So that'll be fun.
Have you been on a plane since March of 2020?
I have actually, yes, I have, braved the storm and gone out, and navigated those waters, and everything turned out okay, thankfully. So that was good. But yeah, so no issues so far, but definitely looking forward to kind of getting out of state for a little bit, see some new territory.
Yeah, it's been an interesting time. Typically in my business and relocation, you'll see that big bell curve. When school starts to when school gets out, that's when everybody moves.
Mm,
And for some reason, it has been steady all the way through this year. It's been very interesting times.
wow, wow, yes. I mean, I bet it has definitely changed a lot of things for you and your organization. Just it's been a time of constant adaptability needed for a lot of people on many fronts, that they did not expect, unfortunately. But
Yeah, I mean, we still, I think before the pandemic, there was a war on talent, and here we are today with a war on talent, right? Recruiting
yeah,
and trying to help companies get talent in their organization. So it's been interesting times.
yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, we are 2 minutes past the start time, just to allow people to trickle in. So I will go ahead and share my screen and just get cover some of our introductory things as far as ATAP and the webinar goes. Um, all right, awesome. So, as you all know from the live stream sign up that you did sign up for, today we are going to be talking about 5 strategies to get more buy in from the C suite. But before we do that, just wanted to go over some things and introduce myself. My name is Nikeo Hill. I'm a recruiter and sourcer at Wayne Technologies and going to be your host for today's live stream. So maybe some of you are new to ATAP, or this is your first ATAP event. Just to give you some background on who we are, the Association of Talent Acquisition Professionals was founded in 2016, and it represents the interests of talent acquisition, recruiting, and staffing professionals at every level from entry to executive worldwide. We've really made it our mission as ATAP to cultivate a community that sparks innovation, engagement, and open knowledge sharing for talent acquisition as a whole. And ATAP is a very member driven organization, and we could not do our work without our over 700 plus individual members, as well as our corporate members, and alongside our very invaluable sponsors, like our platinum sponsor, Eightfold, and our gold sponsors of NAS, People Results, and Recruitix, as well as all of our silver sponsors as well. So if you personally know someone who could benefit from joining ATAP and the professional association that comes with it, or maybe you or someone you know would like to volunteer in the talent acquisition community just to give back, please go ahead and head over to atapglobal.org and to check us out more there and potentially volunteer as well. So today is Tuesday, September 28th. We have an awesome topic for you today. And to let you all know, this session is being recorded and will be made available to all registered ATAP members. So you don't have to worry about missing anything in particular, and you'll be able to access that afterwards. And we'll also have a Q&A section at the end. Make sure to submit your questions with the specific Q&A box at the bottom of your screen in Zoom. So today's live stream is entitled 5 Strategies to Get More Buy-in from the C-Suite, and it is being presented by Bruce Waller, who is a speaker, author, and VP of Corporate Relocation at Armstrong Relocation. And so, Bruce, I will go ahead and turn things over to you.
Thank you, Nikeo. Hey, good to be here. Thank you so much for investing time to join this session today. I'm excited. There has never been a more important time for this topic when it comes to strategies to get buy-in from the C-suite. Because just like I talked to Nikeo before we started, there was a war on talent before the pandemic. And as you know, as recruiters, continues to be a war on talent. And so I love the mission community that basically sparks innovation, engagement, and knowledge sharing. I love that. And so I want to see everybody engaged in the chat as we talk today, because I really feel like that is how we all learn. And today we're going to talk about just looking at things from a different lens. And I'm confident that you're going to enjoy this. Just a real quick background. Nikeo mentioned that I have been in corporate relocation for the last 25 years. You recruit them and we move them. And when 2020 arrived, when this pandemic arrived, a lot of times I would meet people for coffee to connect and just get to know them more, just like you do. And of course, in March, the coffee shops closed. And so I was trying to figure out how can I stay connected and how can I continue to stay educated? And so I decided that after, getting on Zoom and having some conversations, I decided I'm just going to record these conversations and just do a podcast. So I started the podcast Life in the Leadership Lane, where I talk to high performers in the talent acquisition, in the HR community, and just had a purposeful conversation. And after the first season, there was so much great information that I decided to turn that into a book. And so 2021, I just got through releasing the book, Life in the Leadership Lane. And one of the chapters is about influence, and it's about speaking influence. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to go ahead and cue up this presentation as we get started. So, hey, we're at lunchtime. Why don't you put in the chat what you're having for lunch? I mean, are you having steak? Are you having Diet Coke or protein shake? What are you having? Let's see here. Okay. Hopefully everybody can see the screen as we cue everything up. How many of you out there are Tom Hanks fans? I mean, who doesn't enjoy a good Tom Hanks movie? I mean, you got Forrest Gump, you got Castaway, you got so many. I was watching the Academy Awards just not too long ago, and Tom Hanks was receiving another Academy Award. And so he got up to speak. And as he was speaking, he said, there's 3 things we all should do every day when we come to the workplace. And quite honestly, I don't remember what 2 of those things were, but one thing that really stuck with me is the 3rd thing. He said, we all need to bring ideas to the workplace. And so we need to always be looking for ideas to engage with others. And my hope today is that you will just take away one idea that will help you in your role, with your department, with your team, with your organization, to help make you better as a talent acquisition professional. And so as we're talking about these things, we're going to look at things from a sales lens. And so when I decided to put this presentation together on these 5 strategies, I went out to many, I did a lot of research on this. I went out to many high performers and I said, hey, what's your perspective when it comes to these 5 things? And we're going to talk about building trust. We're going to talk about finding a problem. We're going to talk about building a business case around that. We're going to talk about the importance of developing sponsors. And we're going to talk about just being persistent. So I went out to top HR leaders, talent acquisition leaders, and said, hey, what's your perspective? And so today, during this presentation, I'm going to share some perspective from you. As a matter of fact, not only am I going to share perspective with you, I have brought some of the podcast guests with me to share their perspective. And I think you're really going to enjoy that. You know, as talent acquisition leaders, we all, we all are leading, right? We're leading our candidates, we're leading with business partners. And so one of the questions I always like to ask my guests is, what is leadership? And I love the definition John Maxwell used. He said, hey, it's nothing more, nothing less. And we can influence in a positive way, and we can influence in a negative way. And not only can we influence, but we also need to continue to look for ways to develop people around us, right? So we can help have them to help us influence the process. And so I wanted to just kind of start off the presentation with, let's just take, it's almost like, when you're playing sports, the great coach Vince Lombardi, whenever he started a new football season, he said, hey, this is a football. Well, this is, what is leadership to you? That's what I want to ask you. And I brought Bronwyn Allen with me today. She is the CEO for High Profile. And I asked her what leadership was to her, and I want to share that with you. Hopefully you can hear this okay. If somebody says, hey, Bronwyn, what's leadership to you? How would you share that?
Sure. Well, it pretty much goes back to my mission and why I feel like my purpose is. To me, leadership is helping others learn to believe in themselves and their God-given talents and abilities. Because if they can do that, then they can really find their lane. And they may need help, just like I did. They may need help with that confidence. They may need somebody to believe in them first before they do, and to convince them that, yeah, they've got that gem inside them. They just need to cultivate it. So to me, that's what leadership is truly about, helping that person become the best version of themselves.
Isn't that great? So I love what she said, though. Help others believe. That's what you're able to do with candidates. Whenever you're talking to candidates during that recruiting process, like, help them believe and be a better version of themselves. And so I always like to say, we're all in recruiting. It doesn't matter what role we have in the organization. We are in recruiting. Candidates are looking, it doesn't matter if you're in customer service, if you're in accounting, if you're in recruiting. And we're also all in sales. We're trying to sell our ideas. We're trying to sell our projects. We're trying to sell candidates on our company. We're trying to sell our business unit leaders and our leadership team on ideas and candidates. Hey, we're trying to sell ourselves. Raise your hand. Anybody want to raise? We are all in sales. And so today we're going to look at things from a sales lens. And so we're going to start with the first element, and that is the importance of building trust. Now, the thing about it is that, what is building trust to you? Put that in the chat. And the problem that most people have with step one is that building trust is about building relationships, isn't it? And building relationships takes a long time. Think about that. When you talk to someone, let's say you're talking to a candidate, they're immediately that they want to know, hey, does this person care about me? Is this person committed to the organization? And most importantly, can I trust them? And I just love this. I don't know if you're tuning in from Dallas, Texas, you may recognize this statue out by the star for the Dallas Cowboys. And I just love this. It's the statue of the huddle. And I love what Simon Sinek says. He says a team is not a group of people that work together. It's a team that trusts each other. Building trust is so important, and it's the very first step. You see, if you skip that step and you don't build trust, you're not going to be able to develop influence if people don't trust you. And so the very first step, we need to pause and just say, hey, am I building a relationship here, or am I just dialing for dollars, or am I just, just going through the process? We need to step back and think about that. I brought, as I talked to different leaders to get their perspective, I wanted to share some of the ways that we can build trust in our role. And I would love for you to put in the chat, like, how do you build trust? And so one of the leaders talked about building trust comes from developing relationships. We talk about that, knowing their family, their hobbies, not just connect, build, and be intentional. Be known as the person who creates clear goals and accomplishes those goals without excuse in the organization. I love what this leader says. You need to learn and know the business acumen. Quickness and understanding and dealing with a business situation, knowing that financial performance, knowing the business. Another leader said, we need to listen, relate, understand, and listen more. I love what this leader said. Said, we need to raise our hand to be involved outside of HR, outside of talent acquisition, outside of our role. Be a business partner no matter what role you're on. Make yourself that go-to person in the organ. Are you the go-to person? Like when your leader, says, hey, we need to get something. Are you that go-to person? Have you built that brand that says, hey, I'm going to do what I said I was going to do?
Hey,
I mean,
Bruce,
that is
I'm
a
so
way.
sorry to jump in
Yes.
here, but I think there's something
Yes.
that went wrong with the screen. Oh, I think the slides just came back.
Are we okay?
I think we should be okay, but your video is also off. It looks like. So maybe try unsharing your video and then turning it back on.
Okay. So right now I'm not in a video right now. How can I build trust?
No, I just mean your camera feed.
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. And I can, and I can actually see the chats now. All right. You want me to try it again?
Yes. Yep.
Can you see me now?
I can see your camera now, so we're good there. Try sharing your screen again.
All right. Okay, here we go. How are we doing now?
I think it's still loading. If any of you can see his slides in the chat, let me know. For me, it is it's just a gray screen essentially. Okay, here we go. Actually, it just came up.
Okay. What do you see right now? How can we build more trust in our role?
Yep, that's what I see.
Okay, good. Well, hopefully
Perfect.
you can get a snapshot of this. Hopefully this is clear. Okay. Hey, I brought another leader, Tanya Carruthers, and she is the Chief Human Resource Officer at PFF and a talent acquisition leader. And I want her to share her perspective on developing influence in the workplace. So let's listen to Tanya. Hopefully you can hear this okay, Nikeo.
You had mentioned about developing the influence. And of course, in my 90-day plan, one of them were to establish myself as the go-to person for HR and build relationships with the other members of the executive team. That was part of my 90-day plan. Some were super easy and some were a little bit more rocky. I mean, honestly, I actually just had a conversation with one of our leaders last week in our one-on-one. And he's been with the company pretty much since the beginning. He's a fantastic, he's awesome, wicked smart. And again, it goes back to that two-way feedback. We were kind of just talking and I said, hey, can I share something with you? I said, I feel like we're in a great place now, but honestly, when I first started, I felt like you didn't value HR or value what I was bringing to the table. Tell me about that and what can I do or what did I do to make you feel that way? And then how did we get where we are today, where we work together great, right? It was a journey. And I think being patient and understanding and giving people grace that just like you are going going through a change, so were they. That was really important. Like I didn't, when we would hit bumps in the road or he wouldn't follow my process that I put in place, I didn't say, oh, I'm never working with him again. Oh my God, he doesn't value me. Oh, I'm going to go around him. I
Mm.
really just said, you know what? He's one of those people that I have to show him. And I have no problem showing him what value I bring to the table and how I can impact his world in a positive way and take things off his plate that he probably doesn't even like to do. But I really had to take those steps to just say, instead of me telling you, I'm going to just show you. And then it will all work together, work out. And that's exactly what happened.
Hopefully you all heard that and were able to see Tanya. And I love what she talked about. She talked about, hey, I'm not just going to tell them what I'm going to do. I'm going to show them. Absolutely love that. Put your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear your perspective on what Tanya had to say. Okay, so we talked about the importance of building trust. Now let's talk about the importance of identifying a problem. And it's not just identifying a problem, it's identifying the right problem. And when it comes to identifying problems, here's what my perspective is around this, and that is this. When we're identifying the problem, it's got to align with our mission and our goals and objectives of the organization. You see, if it's not in alignment with that, it's probably going to be put over there on that parking lot list, right? The things that we can talk about later, because we're all busy. Everybody's busy. And so we want to try to figure out if we're going to identify a problem, does it align with something that we're trying to get accomplished? So for our organization, it's important that it's in alignment with revenue. It's in alignment with profit. It's in alignment with safety. It's in alignment with quality. Those are the four things that we're very dialed in on. And so it's not just about going for just finding any problem, but it's the right problem. So how do we identify that right problem? So here's some things that we can do. Some of the leaders talked about asking for a 15-minute with leaders in the organization and prepare. I mean, leaders are busy. We're going to hear Diane Sanford talk about that here in a little bit. Ask the question, what challenges are you facing today? And why is that important to you? And here's a great, do we have this now? And how does this impact our financial goals, our organization? Hey, how about this question to a business unit leader? How can I better serve you and your department? And hey, what is this costing us? Or hey, even more importantly, what is this costing us not to make a change here? And I had one leader talk about the importance of focusing on one problem at a time. That drives the biggest impact. Another idea is maybe even implement the 3-question rule. And the 3-question rule is this: if somebody asks a question more than 3 times, try to take that question and turn that into a product or a service or a policy change. But if you're getting the same question over and over and over, so maybe track those questions. And so I just love some of the perspective that we got from the leaders talking about when it comes to identifying the problem. So we talked about building trust. We talk about identifying the right problem, but now we got to build a business case, right? And so here's the thing. A lot of leaders will go and they'll, maybe they'll try to skip that first step and go right to the problem and then try to find a solution. But listen, we all know that it's all about the data. No data, no influence. It's all about the data. We got to take time to build a business case, and building a business case, like building relationships, often takes time. And so as we're thinking about developing influence and we're building these relationships and we've identified a problem in the organization, now we've got to figure out, what do we need to do to build this business case, and what are some strategies to go around to building that business case? And I'm curious, do you ever put in the chat, do you ever get stuck in this particular case? I think that it's important to bring people along with you when it comes to building a business case and not having to do this on your own. But I love the first thing is, you got to do the groundwork. You got to get the data and do the, get focus groups around you and you talk to multiple vendors, which you probably do now. and create a simple way to show why you are pitching what you're pitching. I love the understand the what, but more importantly, the why. We got to know the why. And so do your leaders in the workplace. Hey, we got to know the market. We got to keep it tight and compare it to the industry. How about drip campaigns? Anybody ever use drip campaigns where we talk about something and we just kind of socialize it and just keep on just dropping, seeds and watching those grow along? And then when the time's right, really hone in on what you're trying to accomplish. We also got to speak the language of the business. Engage by challenging. I brought Angela Deputy with me, the CHRO, to talk about challenging. We got to engage in challenging the situation. I think a lot of times we just assume things are always going to be the way they are. We've got to challenge. And we talked earlier, we focus on one issue. I used to have a leader who used to always tell me, "Hey, Bruce, don't tell me how to build the clock. Just tell me the time." And then most importantly, when it comes to building a business case, we got to share stories, because that's what people remember. They emotionally connect to stories. It's like, hey, not here's what the problem is, but hey, here's what life in our workplace could look like if we do this. And sharing that story and painting that picture and showing that team on what could be for you. And so I brought another leader. This is Angela Deputy. She's the Chief Human Resource Officer out of Chicago. And I asked her about challenging, because I think that's one of the areas that a lot of us, we get stuck on, because we're do we challenge something whenever the leader says, hey, you know what, maybe they're not open to being challenged. So let's listen to what Angela has to say. And most importantly, listen to her, what she says about being open. I appreciate you sharing the challenging piece of it, because I will tell you that a lot of people, it seems to me that many have a hard time challenging, right? They're like, hey, you know what, this is how it's going to be. And I think that I had a coach one time talk to me about the importance of challenging. And then he said that when you challenge the situation, people don't look at it that you're opposed or anything. They look at it like you care. And so I want people to hear that from you about challenging, because I think a lot of people would like to challenge more, but maybe it's not the courage. Maybe they just assume that, hey, it's not going to go anywhere. What are your thoughts for someone listening around challenging?
I think, it just sparked a thought as you were saying that. It's not just my willingness to challenge, it's my willingness to be challenged. And that starts with me as a leader, right? So and it's not natural, when somebody challenges me, like Jersey Girl wants to come out, you know what I mean? Like I'm sitting on her going, sit back. It's okay. It's not fight or flight. Just have a different perspective, Yeah. And so I have to be willing to hear their feedback, willing to hear their perspective, and willing to hear it gracefully.
Hopefully you could hear that, but did you hear what she said? She said, it's not just about my willingness to challenge, but my willingness to be challenged, to be open to feedback and to hear it gracefully. And I want that to just sink in. Have you ever, challenged a situation, and how did you handle that? I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy. And so I love that, as Angela shared that perspective, when we are, we're trying to, change something, a process in our company, or maybe we're trying to bring on a candidate, and, it's the one. And then trying to, someone challenge you, be open to challenge and what they have to say. So hopefully you enjoyed that. So we've talked about the importance of building trust. We have talked about finding a problem in the organization. And then we built a business case. But after we build that business case, we're not done. We're not done. We've got to invest in developing sponsors. I had David Windley on my podcast, and I was asking him actually about mentors in the organization. And, he was talking about how mentors are good. Mentors are good. But he said, sponsors are better. And he said, here's the difference. The mentors can help you with give you insight and ideas and be someone that can bounce ideas off of and different things like that and help you with what you're trying to accomplish. But sponsors can move your projects forward. They can move you forward in the organization. So we need to invest in developing sponsors. I had a sales professional on my team. He's since retired, but he always talked about the 2 across and 2 up and down method. And what he basically was saying is that whenever I am working with a customer or someone within the organization, I want to know 2 people across and I want to know 2 people up and down. And that way, if somebody leaves, I still have 3 people that can educate the person that comes in and keep that flow going. And I love that. But I was visiting with Diane Sanford, and I'm going to bring her on in just a few minutes. And she talked about it from a really totally different perspective. But here's some strategies when it comes to developing sponsors in our organization. By the way, do you have a sponsor? And if you do, I would love for you to put it in the chat. Who sponsors you when it comes to projects that you're trying to move forward, or when it comes to candidates that you're trying to, push through the system, or you personally? I love this. I use this all the time. Your network is your net worth. I really believe that. Continue to invest in that network, invest in that people zone. I had one leader talk about the importance of having meetings before the meeting, right? So the meaning that, hey, I'm going to talk to this sponsor. I'm going to try to get buy-in before I even go into that meeting. So when I present this, I've already got somebody on my side. How about the importance of serving others? I always talk about the importance of using the 100-0 rule. Does anybody know what the 100-0 rule is? So the 100-0 rule basically is give 100% and expect 0. It's that simple. You will sleep better at night. Too many times we're worried about what someone's not doing for us. We're doing all the work, or we're doing all of this. We're doing most of the project. But if we will just serve, give 100% and expect 0, good things will happen. Just serve. And being VIP, right? You just got to take your VIP card out everywhere you go. And VIP is about being visible. It's about being in the moment. And it's about being predictable. We talk about being raising the hand, being the go-to person. I shared the story of the sales person in our organization, 2 across, 2 up and down. That's Connect 4. And then, of course, we've all heard WIIFM, what's in it for me? That's what people want to know. That's what candidates want to know. That's what the C-suite wants to know. And so we're going to let them know, what that is. And then I have a good friend that's the VP of HR for Kirby Smith, Seth McCauley, and he always talks about the importance of relationshiping. And that goes back to, building relationships as well. And then, maybe even, develop a mentoring program and mentor others along the way. And so let's listen to my friend, the Chief People Officer, Diane Sanford. And I want you to really pay close attention to the end of this segment, because towards the end, she's going to talk about how she really hones in on sponsors that may even be a naysayer. Here you go.
These are really busy people, and they have everyone in the organization asking them for 5 minutes. And so they probably know a little bit about what you're about to come talk to them about. So respect their time, really go through your material and make it as concise as you can. Get to the point really quickly. Think about the end in mind, right? What do you want these folks walking away knowing, thinking, doing? And what do you want out of them? And start with that, right? Give them an executive summary and say, hey, I know you're really busy. I appreciate your time. I want to talk to you today about X, Y, or Z. Here's why I think it's going to benefit the company, and I'm going to bring you, I have all the information you could ever want. So you tell me how much information you want. A lot of C-level senior leaders are drivers, A-type personality, and they've got short attention spans. So they'll interrupt you, and don't let that throw you off your game. So I think be prepared, know your stuff. But a secret that I'll share is, you know, for every good idea, there's going to be somebody who thinks differently about that good idea. And so anticipate the opposition. One thing I always used to do, I had a customer, somebody who, one of the departments that I supported as a generalist, who was the biggest naysayer of anything HR rolled out ever. And I really liked him a lot, and we had a good working relationship, and I knew he was going to ask all the hard questions and try to blow holes in whatever it is we were trying to do. So I would reach out to him first, and I would say, hey, I want to get your opinion. This is what we're thinking about doing. Tell me why it's a dumb idea. And boy, he really didn't have any problem with that. And so he helped me quite a bit because he played devil's advocate for me. And so by the time I got to where I really had to talk about it and sell it, I answered those arguments before they could be raised.
How about that? Did you hear her secret? And her secret was anticipate the opposition. I love that. And I'm sure you've had this. I mean, where you have the naysayers in your organization. I've had that in my organization. And many times I would just walk away from that. But after she shared that perspective, I was like, what a brilliant idea. Go have these naysayers, go have these people that are have opposition to what you're trying to do, poke holes in what you're doing, and it gives you the important or it gives you the opportunity to create, you know, something to battle those objectives. And when you bring something in to you know, influence the process or get a decision, you've already, you know, taking care of those objections, and now you'll probably get buy-in. And so find a way to let the opposition poke holes in those ideas. And then, like she said, she's become good friends with them. And so it's allowed her to build relationships because she's respected what they said. So I love that. And I appreciate her sharing that. And hopefully you're able to hear that. So we talked about building trust. We talked about defining or finding a problem. And we talked about building a business case once we've found the right problem. And then we've developed sponsors in the organization. But now it's time to, you know what? We got to be persistent. I mean, no does not mean no every day. It just might mean no today, but not every day. And what I like to say is this: if we really believe in something, we've got to fight for it. We have to fight. I mean, if you really, really believe, we got to find a way to do that. And I brought another guest, Adrienne Court. And I love what she's going to share with us. But whenever I went out and talked to leaders, I said, hey, what do you think about being persistent? And here's what they said: you know, being persistent, but not being a pest. Right? We got to know when to walk away. But we got to get to know your C-suite as best as possible and ask the question as soon as you're able to. And what do you expect from me? Like, day one is not too soon. And like I mentioned, no doesn't always mean no. It's sometimes it means I don't have enough information to invest in this discussion yet. So maybe we got to go back. We haven't built a good enough business case yet. We talked about using drip campaigns to get that traction and create that momentum. In marketing, you always hear about the 7x7 rule. And what it basically is that, typically you don't see something until you've seen it like 7 times. I mean, you ever watch TV and you're watching and all of a sudden a car commercial comes on and you're like, hey, and the car commercial is coming on 7 times. And all of a sudden you start noticing this particular car. So we got to just continue to market that. And like I said, if you really believe, you got to look for different ways. Be persistent, be tenacious, be tranquil, be consistent. I mean, listen, if you really believe in a candidate, you've just got to fight for it. Learn how to handle objections, use the sales tool, the sales tool. It's feel, felt, found. Hey, I know how you feel. Others have felt the same way, but here's what we have found. There's a strategy there. Sometimes a small win will lead to a bigger win. Hey, take those small wins when you get them. And I love what the late Jim Valvano said. He said, don't give up. Never, ever give up. I just absolutely love that. And so here's the last guest I brought with me today, and this is Adrienne Court. Adrienne is the Chief Human Resource Officer at Alchemy Technologies. She is going to give you some advice, and it has to be around persistence. So I want you to tune in to Adrienne. Here we go.
I think the other thing early on in my career, as I kind of mentioned, but I think when the door closes, you find a window to break and go that way too. So you just, you need to find a way. And sometimes it's not just the way right out the front door. So you have to find alternative ways to make it happen. The other thing too that I find, one more, is a lot of times we just get caught in the cycle of, the projects getting it done. And I call it OTL, over the line. Get it 85% there and get it over the line instead of just waiting for something to be perfectly done. It'll never be perfect. But I find many times leaders get stuck trying to, sometimes you just need to get things over the line and make them happen. And then you're fixing the tire maybe the rest of the way on the track. But sometimes you just have to hit the gas and just start going.
So how about that? I mean, did you hear what she said? When the door closes, you got to find a window to break. I absolutely love that. And so, like I said, if we really believe in something, we got to find a way to scale that wall, go around to the back door, go in the side door, find a window to break, whatever we got to do. If we really believe. And I want to mention, I put this, I mentioned publishing my new book, Life from Leadership Lane. I put this in the book, and she talked about OTL. And OTL stands for over the line. And did you hear what she said? She said, many times we try to get everything perfect before we move forward. And she said, a lot of times that stagnates us or it, causes too much pause, but we've got to push that forward when we get at 85% and then figure out how to get it over the line, the last 15% in motion. And so think about that. Are you a person that is, it has to be perfect, or do you just move it forward once you get it to, 85%? And I know that that's not easy to do, but you'll find yourself being able to create more momentum if you can get that in action. Hey, I want to just ask you just for just a minute or so. Hopefully, like I said, the video and everything's coming in okay. I would love for you to just put it in the chat. What has been your best takeaways so far as we conclude the last 10 minutes? I would love to know, is there something that we've shared around building trust that that you might be able to apply or that might help you? Or how about, defining or finding the problem or finding the right problem? And is there something that, might have helped you? Or how about in building a business case? Was there something that some of the leaders shared, some of the points I talked about? Will that help you in building a business case? Or what about developing sponsors? Maybe it was the naysayer, having a different perspective there, or developing sponsors in your organization. Or do you even have a sponsor? And if you don't, maybe it's time that you start focusing on that. And then, of course, being persistent. Like I said, if you believe, really, really believe, you will make things happen. You will make things happen. Okay, good. Love it. Okay, so as I was putting this together, I thought, you know what? Are there some common threads that might help anyone that's tuning in today on, developing that influence in the workplace? And so I thought, I'm going to take out 10 common threads and let's just go back over these. So we can just let this sink in. And number one, don't rush the influencing process. We just talked about building relationships. Building relationships takes a long time. We've got to invest in the people zone. Number two, we talked about drip campaigns, but layering ideas over time. This is a long game. I know a lot of times leaders, they want things now, get it done, let's get it done. But you listen, sometimes it takes time. Socialize your ideas, continue to let people know what you're thinking, engage in, your different ideas. Number four, listen. We've got to listen. What is the leader saying? What is the candidate saying? Understand and relate. We talked about when, developing sponsors, we talked about having meetings before the meetings, right? And trying to get buy-in before we even go to that meeting. We talked about the importance of what's in it for me, right? Focusing on what's in it for me. Asking the tough question and not taking it personal. You heard Angela Deputy talk about being challenged, open to challenging. Hey, we talked about the 3-question rule. Hey, we need to track questions that are being asked to us, and then prioritize doing the right thing over the easy thing. Prioritize doing the right thing over the easy thing. And then lastly, you got to believe in you. You have to believe. One of the things I wanted to also include in here is the importance of, when we're talking to the C-suite, we got to speak with confidence. And many times we need to, we need to avoid some words. Like, for example, honestly, have you ever found yourself, talking and saying, well, honestly, this is how I feel. Well, hopefully you're always honest. So take that out of your vocabulary and maybe even use the word agreement instead of the word contract. It just feels differently. And how about owning something versus buying? Or how about, hey, we have a problem. Have you ever heard that? Hey, we have a challenge. A challenge feels like, hey, there's something we can do here that, we got a challenge. We need all hands on deck. How about, when you're talking about prospects, I always talk about future clients, like that believe aspect. It just feels different. And so anyway, hopefully some of these words that will help you, but think about that as you're going through the process about, just using words that will help you continue to develop influence in the process. And so let's review just the 5 things that we talked about today. And we talked about, number one, we talked about building trust. I want these to sink in, because this is truly the sales process. And many times, a lot, whenever I'm calling different future clients and they're not answering the phone, it's because many times they get so many calls that are immediately sales calls. They don't even want to answer their phone, because we got to start by building trust. And building trust just takes a long time. Number two, we got to identify not just the problem, but the right problem. And that's got to align with what? Your mission, your goals and objectives of the organization. You got to make sure you're in alignment. What are those critical success factors? Do you know what those are in your organization? And if you don't, maybe it's time you talk to somebody in the C-suite and find out, what are we focused on? How about building a business case? Are you getting others included in that building that business case? Are you telling a story of what it could look like? Not what it looks like today, but what it could look like. And we talked about the importance of developing sponsors in the organization. So important. We've got to have people that will help us move anything we're doing through the organization, whether it's maybe it's candidate, maybe it's a project that we're working on, whatever that, we got to have people help us move that through the organization. There's too much weight that will be on our shoulders if we don't try to get sponsors, and it just really causes challenges for us, right? And then we got to be persistent. I mean, you heard Adrienne say, if you can't go through the door, you got to find a window to break, right? We've got to be persistent if we believe. If we really, really, really believe, we've got to find a way. Hey, these last couple minutes, I'm going to close here with a story. And this story is that I feel like everyone that serves talent acquisition, this is what you do. You give hope, because there's a lot of people that are feeling like this gentleman here. Like he just feels, you can just feel his sadness. Like he's just tired. Sometimes they call it leadership fatigue. And I think a lot of us have had this over the last, 16, 18 months. It's like when we have energy, it's because we are looking forward and we have something to look forward to, but all of a sudden the world, shuts down and we're just like, oh my gosh. Or maybe we feel like this as talent acquisition pros, that we have so much on our plate. But I was, when I published my first book in 2017, I was asked to speak at a local real estate association. And they had called me and asked me if I would kick off their event. Of course, I said I would. And that was early on, right after I published my book. And so I went to this event, and there were not a lot of people there. And I would say there were probably, I don't know, maybe 20 to 30 people. And I was at this event, and I remember when I was speaking, the room was very dark. I wasn't able to really feel the engagement like I typically would. I couldn't walk the room, and it was an interesting situation. But after the meeting, I had a few people come up to me, and it was really nice. People would say, "Hey, that was really good. Really enjoyed it. I thank you for being here," and that was great. I had 3, 4, 5 people do that, and that was nice. But at the very, very last person was waiting to talk to me. And so she comes up when everybody was gone, and she said, "Hey, I just want to say thank you again for being here today." And she said, "Today you gave me hope." And I said, well, tell me more. I mean, when you use the word hope, I want to know, like, that can be pretty deep, can it? And she said, 4 years ago, her husband was diagnosed with cancer, and she has become his caretaker. And she all of a sudden quit looking at her dreams. She just put them on the back burner. And she thought basically that not necessarily their life was over, but her dreams were over. And she said after the presentation, it gave her energy to ignite some of those dreams again and try to look down the road. And she said it really energized her. And I was thinking about that. And I was thinking about even like for you, I mean, you're talking to the C-suite. Maybe there's somebody in the C-suite that's having some challenges, or maybe there's a candidate that you're talking to that, I mean, we got to build that relationship. We got to get to know their story. You give hope. Like, it's incredible when I think about your profession, the impact you make as TA pros. It's incredible. So keep doing what you're doing. Man, you really do make a difference. And many times people probably won't tell you, but it's absolutely incredible when I think about that. Hey, just real quick, if you just published a book, Life in the Leadership Lane, if you want to get that, it's now on Amazon. That's the chapter I just got through talking about today is chapter 3. And then if you want to connect on LinkedIn or Twitter or my website, reach out. I would love to connect with you, and hopefully you enjoyed this today. And I thank you so much for ATAP for having me here today. And I'm super grateful for even being here.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, great presentation, Bruce. And everyone, please send in any questions if you have them. It looks like we do have a question from Kosi. And Kosi asks, how should people show and not tell their leadership the value your TA department brings?
Love that question. How do you show and not tell? You've got to be the model, right? The example. And, the thing about it is that's almost like developing sponsors. It's like building relationships. It's going to take time, right? So showing is typically saying, hey, I'm going to be the person that does what I said I'm going to do every single time. I'm going to, I'm showing up on time. I have a great attitude. I'm going to raise my hand to take on that project and just being visible in the moment. So yeah, no, that is a great question, and just got to be patient with the process. I love that question. I think you went mute.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay,
Yes,
there we go.
it's
Sorry
great.
about that. Yeah, so keep sending in any questions you guys have. I have a question just on what would you say are some of the most common pitfalls that you've seen just in this process of, getting buy-in from the C-suite? What are those main pitfalls that people seem to always fall into that they should stay away from?
Nikeo, that's a great question. And I think unfortunately, the most common pitfall is skipping step number 1 and not trying to build that relationship. They're like, hey, how's it going? What's the problem here? Let's try to figure this problem out, versus really just getting that, establishing that relationship to where the person knows that, hey, you know what, I can count on them. I know who they are. And isn't it true? Like when you know someone and they ask you to do something, like you want to do that because you want them to know that, they can count on you. Right. You often hear, it was so funny. I was watching a video right before this presentation, and it was a football team. They were all getting ready, and there was a leader in the team, and he said, I want everybody to look at the person next to you in the face and tell them, I know I'm doing this for you. And it was amazing, like the reaction. So I would say it's not necessarily a pitfall. They just skip that step, right? And that is developing that relationship, really connecting with that person and understanding like who are they as people, not just as the person in their job. So really getting to know people. But yeah, hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that's a fantastic answer. I think it can just be sometimes too easy to jump to what you need, what the problem is, what the next thing is, instead of taking that time to build the relationship. So that's fantastic. Okay.
Think about this real quick, Nikeo. How many
Yeah.
people do you have on LinkedIn that you don't even know who they are?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you. Hundreds and hundreds. Way too many. Way too many,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
And it's hard. Like it's hard, but you just, we just have to invest in those relationships. Just keep getting to know people and just trying to figure out, how can we help them? Use that 100-0 rule. How can we serve them? And good things will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. All right. Well, we are all out of time. Just to wrap us up here, thank you again, everyone, for joining and hopping on. Definitely appreciate it. If any of you are interested in volunteering for ATAP, like I mentioned in the beginning, go ahead and head over to atapglobal.org. Send us an email at contact@atapglobal.org, or reach out to us at any of those other places, and we'd love to have you on board. So without any further ado, thank you so much, everybody, and I hope you all have a fantastic day. Thank you very much, Bruce, for being here. It was a pleasure to have you.
Enjoyed it, everybody. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
All right.